All right, let's go. You think science is the thing that makes the universe less scary. You are catastrophically wrong. Number 10, the void. That shouldn't exist. You've seen pictures of space, galaxies scattered like dust across a black canvas, clusters and filaments of light stretching in every direction. The universe teeming and dense and alive with structure. You've absorbed that image your entire life. The cosmos is full. The cosmos is vast but populated. You hold that picture in your head like a security blanket, and it is lying to you because in 1981, astronomers stumbled across something that punched a hole straight through that comfortable illusion. They found a region of space approximately 330 million light years across that contains almost nothing. Not a few galaxies, not sparse clusters, almost nothing. They called it the Bode's void, and the moment you actually try to process its scale, something in your brain quietly breaks. 330 million light years. You need to feel that number, not just read it. Light, the fastest thing in the universe, travels about 9.5 trillion kilometers every single year. The Milky Way galaxy, your home, the entire sprawling structure containing 400 billion stars, is roughly 100,000 light years across. That already sounds impossibly large. The Bode's void is 3,300 Milky Ways laid end to end. If you placed our entire galaxy inside the Bode's void and tried to drive from one edge to the other at the speed of light, you would still be driving long after every star in the observable universe had burned out and died. The journey would take 330 million years at the maximum speed physics allows. At the speed of the fastest spacecraft humanity has ever launched, you would be driving for roughly 6 quadrillion years. That is 430,000 times longer than the universe has existed. And here is where it stops being merely large and starts being genuinely wrong. The universe is only 13.8 billion years old. Cosmologists have calculated that in that time, even with every known physical process working at full capacity, a void of this size simply should not exist. Structure forms gradually. Gravity pulls matter together over billions of years, creating filaments and walls of galaxies. The math says a void this enormous would require far longer than the age of the universe to hollow out naturally. It shouldn't be there, and yet there it is, sitting in the constellation Boötes like a scar in the fabric of reality. 330 million light years of almost perfect emptiness, watching you from 700 million light years away. Some physicists suggested it could be a supervoid, a region where dark energy is slightly more concentrated, accelerating the expansion of space locally and pushing matter away. That sounds almost reasonable until you realize what it implies: that the universe is not uniform, that the invisible force accelerating all of existence apart from itself might be uneven, might be lumpy, might be stronger in some places than others in ways we do not understand and cannot predict. The Bode's void doesn't just challenge our cosmological models, it suggests that our map of reality has a region on it that says, in the oldest cartographic tradition, here be monsters, and we have no idea what the monsters are. You will never travel there. But it is out there right now, vast and hollow and patient, and the fact that it exists at all means the universe is not behaving the way it is supposed to. Number 9, the signal that came once and never again. You've probably heard about SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. You've heard about the giant radio dishes pointed at the sky, patiently listening to the static of the cosmos for decades, waiting for a pattern, a signal, anything that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena, and you've heard that they haven't found anything. The silence is the answer, you tell yourself. We're alone. That's settled and sad, and you've made peace with it. On August 15th, 1977, a volunteer astronomer named Jerry Amon was reviewing data from the Big Ear Radio Telescope at Ohio State University. The telescope was scanning the sky in the hydrogen frequency band. The frequency SETI researchers had always theorized an intelligent civilization would use to broadcast, because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe and any spacefaring species would know it. At 11:16 p.m., the telescope picked up a signal so powerful, so perfectly structured, so inexplicably consistent with everything a transmission from another civilization would look like, that Eman circled it in red ink on the printout and wrote a single word in the margin. Wow. The signal lasted 72 seconds, which was exactly as long as the telescope's field of view could track it. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. It was 30 times louder than the background noise of deep space. It matched, in almost every technical parameter, the theoretical profile of an interstellar broadcast. The frequency was right. The intensity was right. The duration was right. It was, in every measurable way, exactly what they had been waiting for. It was never detected again. Not once. In 46 years of searching, pointing every available instrument back at that same patch of sky, listening with increasingly sensitive equipment, the wow signal has never repeated. It came from the darkness once, perfectly formed, and then it was gone. No natural phenomenon has ever been identified that could explain it. No pulsar, no quasar, no known astrophysical process produces a signal at that frequency with that profile. Every conventional explanation has been examined and rejected. The leading hypothesis, the one that scientists keep quietly returning to because nothing else fits, is that it was artificial in origin. Think about what you are sitting with right now. There is a signal in our archives. It happened once. It matches every criteria for contact. And then it stopped. Whatever sent it either stopped transmitting, moved on, was destroyed, or decided we weren't worth a second message. And you will never know which one. The universe handed us what might have been the most important moment in human history. Let us hear 72 seconds of it and then close the door. You are living in the aftermath of that silence, and it will never be explained in your lifetime. Number 8, matter itself is mostly nothing. Right now, you are sitting or standing somewhere. You can feel the surface beneath you. It feels solid. It feels real. Your body feels dense and present and physical. You have never once fallen through a chair, or a floor, or the earth beneath your feet, and you have taken that as evidence that matter is solid, that the world is made of stuff, that you are made of stuff. You have built your entire understanding of physical existence on that sensation. It is a complete illusion. Every atom in your body, every atom in the chair beneath you, every atom in the planet holding you up is almost entirely empty space. The nucleus of an atom, the dense core containing virtually all its mass, is surrounded by a cloud of electrons so far away from it, proportionally, that if you expanded a single hydrogen atom to the size of a cathedral, the nucleus would be a grain of sand on the floor, and the electron would be a speck of dust somewhere near the ceiling. The space between them, empty. Not just mostly empty. Functionally, completely, terrifyingly empty. Okay? The atom is 99.9999999999996% void. That is 12 nines after the decimal point before you reach anything that isn't emptiness. Your hand is not solid. The floor is not solid. You are a loose arrangement of charged nothing that has been tricked by electromagnetic forces into perceiving itself as continuous and real. The reason you don't fall through the floor isn't that matter is dense. It's that the electrons in the atoms of your feet and the electrons in the atoms of the floor repel each other electromagnetically. You are not resting on the floor. You are hovering a tiny fraction of a nanometer above it, held there by a force that prevents two clouds of emptiness from occupying the same space. And here is the part that should make you put this down and stare at the wall. The physicists who discovered this, who ran the experiments, are a geek, who proved beyond any reasonable doubt that the atom is almost entirely empty, did not know how to explain the one part that wasn't empty, the nucleus, the dense core. They found that it too is made of smaller particles, quarks, and quarks are bound together by the strong nuclear force. And when they calculated the mass contribution of the quarks themselves, they found something that still doesn't have a complete resolution. The quarks account for only about 1% of the mass of the proton. The other 99% comes from the energy of the fields binding them together, from virtual particles flickering in and out of existence in the space between, from processes so complex that our mathematics still strains to describe them fully. You are not made of matter in any meaningful sense. You are made of energy arranged in patterns, vibrating in fields, held together by forces, perceived by a brain that is itself made of the same arrangement of almost nothing. Everything you have ever touched has never actually touched anything. Number 7. The universe is tuned to a razor's edge. Here is a thought that sounds like comfort. You exist. You are here. Look around you at the complexity of a single living cell, the precision of a snowflake, the architecture of a galaxy. All of this came to be through billions of years of physics simply doing what physics does. No plan required, just the natural unfolding of fundamental forces. That sounds stable. That sounds like the universe wants to produce things like you. Now look at the numbers underneath it. The universe runs on approximately 26 fundamental constants. These are the fixed values that determine how reality operates: the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, the strength of the strong nuclear force, the cosmological constant controlling the energy of empty space. These numbers have no theoretical derivation. There is no equation that predicts what they should be. They are simply measured, recorded, and plugged in. They just are what they are. And if you change any one of them by even a hair, you do not get a slightly different universe. You get nothing. You get emptiness and silence and void. If the strong nuclear force, the thing that holds atomic nuclei together, were 2% stronger than it is, protons couldn't form. No protons means no atoms. No atoms means no molecules, no stars, no planets, no chemistry, no life of any kind. If it were 2% weaker, nuclei would fly apart. Always same result. 2%. That is the entire margin between a universe teeming with structure and a universe that is nothing but a thin, expanding fog of subatomic particles with nothing to bind them. The cosmological constant, the energy of empty space, is even more extreme. If it were larger by 1 part in 10 to the power of 120, the universe would have expanded so violently after the Big Bang that no structure of any kind could have formed. Not just no life, no galaxies, no stars, no atoms clumping together under gravity. 1 part in 10 to the 120th. That is a number with 120 zeros. That is the margin by which empty space has been tuned to allow your existence. You should feel the weight of that. There is no known physical reason the constants have the values they do. They didn't have to be this way. And now, the mathematics of physics doesn't demand these specific numbers, and yet here they are, calibrated to the only values that produce a universe complex enough for you to sit inside it and ask why. The 3 answers physicists take seriously are, in ascending order of horror, pure coincidence of vanishingly small probability, an infinite multiverse in which all possible constants exist somewhere, and you inevitably find yourself in one compatible with life, or deliberate engineering. None of these answers is comforting. One says you won a lottery with odds that make winning impossible look optimistic. One says reality is so large and strange it defeats comprehension entirely. And one implies something set the dials, and you have no idea what that something is, whether it's still here or whether it cares. Number 6, while time is not what you think, it is. You experience time the same way you experience gravity or air pressure as a constant background condition of reality that you move through uniformly, 1 second per second, forward and only forward. You are born, you are aging, you will die, and throughout all of it, time ticks steadily beneath your life like a metronome. This feels so fundamental, so obvious, so impossible to question that you have never seriously questioned it. Stop not questioning it. In 1971, physicists placed 4 extremely precise atomic clocks on commercial airplanes and flew them around the world. When the planes landed and the clocks were compared to identical clocks that had remained stationary on the ground, the clocks that had been flying were slightly behind. Not by much, by nanoseconds, but they were behind. Our time had passed more slowly for the clocks in motion. This was not instrument error. This was not a fluke. This was Einstein's theory of special relativity operating in the physical world. Confirmed, measured, real. Time is not a constant. Time is a rate, and that rate changes depending on how fast you're moving. It also changes depending on gravity. The clocks at the top of a tall building tick slightly faster than the clocks at the bottom because they are slightly further from the Earth's mass and therefore experience slightly weaker gravitational time dilation. The GPS satellites orbiting your planet run on clocks that have to be specifically corrected for both these effects, because without those corrections, the time difference would accumulate and make GPS navigation drift by kilometers within a single day. Watch. Your phone's ability to tell you where you are depends on constantly compensating for the fact that time passes at different rates in different places. Now, extend this to the extremes. Near the event horizon of a black hole, time slows so dramatically relative to the outside universe that an observer hovering just above it would watch billions of years pass in the cosmos while experiencing only moments. If you could somehow survive near a neutron star, where gravity is so intense that escape velocity approaches the speed of light, your clock would tick at a meaningfully different rate than everyone you left behind on Earth. You would age at a different rate than the rest of your species. Time is not shared. There is no universal now. The present moment is a local experience, not a cosmic fact. E10, and the part that makes this collapse into genuine dread is that if time itself is a rate that changes with velocity and gravity, then there is no objective answer to the question of when you are. Your past and someone else's future can be simultaneous, depending on where you both are and how fast you're both moving. The universe does not have a single timeline. It has billions of different ones, all coexisting, all equally valid, none of them yours in any absolute sense. The second you thought you were living in, it doesn't exist the way you imagined it, and every second you've ever spent convinced that now is real was spent inside a local measurement that the universe does not recognize. Number 5. The stars are already dead. Tonight, go outside, find a place dark enough to see the sky properly. Look up. Galaxies. You will feel something that humans have always felt in the presence of the stars. A kind of ancient recognition, a sense of connection to something vast and enduring and permanent. The stars have been there since before your civilization, before your species, before your planet. They will be there after you are gone. They feel eternal. This feeling is not just wrong, it is the exact opposite of true. The light hitting your eyes right now left its source years, decades, centuries, or millennia ago. When you look at Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, the light entering your retina has been traveling through the vacuum of space for 8.6 years. You are not seeing Sirius. You are seeing a photograph of Sirius taken 8.6 years in the past, moving toward you at 300,000 kilometers per second. When you look at Betelgeuse, Akit, the swollen red giant in the shoulder of Orion, you are looking at light that left it approximately 700 years ago, around the time the Black Death was tearing through Europe. When you find Deneb in the summer sky, the light reaching you is roughly 2,600 years old. It left its source around the time of ancient Babylon, and many of those stars are already gone. Betelgeuse is a massive star at the end of its life, so bloated and unstable that astronomers have been expecting it to explode as a supernova for years. It may already have exploded. The shockwave may already be racing outward through space. The news of its death is already traveling toward you at the speed of light, and you won't receive it for up to 700 years. The night you see Betelgeuse vanish in a blaze of light visible in the daytime sky, that event will have happened 700 years before you witnessed it. Every night sky you have ever seen is a graveyard of light from sources that may no longer exist. The stars are not up there twinkling. They sent you a message hundreds or thousands of years ago, and you are reading it now, and you have no way of knowing if the sender is still alive. Scale this further. The Andromeda Galaxy, the nearest major galaxy to our own, appears as a faint smudge in the northern sky, visible to the naked eye on a clear night. The light coming from it began its journey 2.5 million years ago. When that light left Andromeda, Homo sapiens did not exist. Our ancestors were early hominids using primitive stone tools in Africa. The entirety of human evolution, every civilization, every language, every war, every discovery, every single human life ever lived. Dakti has occurred in the time it has taken that light to cross the void between two galaxies. When you look at Andromeda, you are not seeing the universe. You are seeing a relic. And out there right now, 2.5 million light years away, something is happening in real time that you will never see because the light carrying that news will not reach Earth for 2.5 million more years. The universe is not showing you what it is showing you what it was. And the gap between those two things is a chasm you will never cross. Number 4, something is pulling the universe apart. In the 1990s, 2 teams of astronomers were doing what seemed like routine cosmological accounting. They were measuring how fast the universe was expanding by observing Type 1a supernovae, a specific kind of stellar explosion so precisely calibrated in brightness that astronomers use them as standard candles to measure cosmic distances. The assumption, the firm theoretical expectation based on everything physics predicted, was that the expansion of the universe should be slowing down. Gravity, the force that pulls all matter together, should be acting as a brake on the outward momentum of the Big Bang, gradually decelerating the expansion over billions of years. That was the model. That was what the math said. The supernovae said something else entirely. The distant ones were dimmer than they should have been, not by a little, consistently, measurably, undeniably dimmer, which meant they were farther away than they should be, which meant the universe wasn't decelerating at all. It was accelerating. Sasak. The expansion of space itself was speeding up. Something was pushing the fabric of reality apart faster and faster, counteracting gravity, not just in isolated regions, but everywhere, in the space between every galaxy cluster, in the geometry of the cosmos itself. The scientists who discovered this won the Nobel Prize in 2011, which is the scientific community's way of acknowledging that you have broken reality in a way that cannot be ignored. They called the source of this acceleration dark energy, which is a name that contains no information whatsoever. It is a label for a complete mystery. Dark energy is not dark in the visual sense. It does not emit or absorb light. It is invisible to every instrument we have. It cannot be detected directly. We know it exists only because of what it is doing to the geometry of space. And what it is doing is this. It currently constitutes approximately 68% of the total energy content of the entire universe. 68%. More than 2/3 of everything that exists in terms of energy is something we cannot see, cannot measure directly, cannot explain theoretically, and cannot do anything about. The matter you can see, every star, every galaxy, every planet, every atom, every human body, every piece of everything you have ever touched or thought about or loved constitutes approximately 5% of the universe. 5. The other 95% is dark energy and dark matter, invisible and unknown, and the dark energy component of that is actively tearing the universe apart. It is working right now in the space between the atoms of your body, in the void between galaxies, pushing everything apart from everything else at an accelerating rate. And here is the destination this trajectory is taking reality. Eventually, in trillions of years, the expansion will accelerate so far that galaxies will be torn apart, then solar systems, then planets, then molecules, then atoms themselves. The Big Rip, the final state of the universe being driven by a force that makes up 2/3 of it, and that human science cannot identify, cannot explain, and has no hope of stopping. Number 3, consciousness might collapse reality. You have spent your entire life assuming that the world exists whether or not you are looking at it. You close your eyes and the room is still there. You walk out of a forest and the trees continue existing. Objects have definite properties, definite positions, definite states, regardless of whether anyone is observing them. This is the foundational assumption of physical reality. And quantum mechanics, the most successful and precisely verified theory in the history of science, refuses to fully accommodate it. The double slit experiment. You fire electrons one at a time through 2 slits in a barrier toward a detector screen. If you don't measure which slit each electron goes through, the electrons behave as waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern on the screen. A pattern that is only possible if each individual electron literally went through both slits at the same time as a spread out probability wave. The electron doesn't have a definite position. It exists as a superposition of possibilities, smeared across space, taking every possible path simultaneously. The moment you place a detector to measure which slit the electron goes through, the interference pattern vanishes. The electron suddenly behaves like a particle with a definite position. It went through one slit, just one. The act of measurement, the act of a physical system gathering information about the electron's path, collapses the spread out probability wave into a single outcome. This has been confirmed thousands of times across dozens of different experiments. It is not in dispute. The dispute, the thing that has fractured theoretical physics for nearly a century, is what it means. The wave function, the mathematical object describing the electron's spread out state of possibilities, is real in some physical sense, and something about observation, about information being acquired by a measuring device, collapses it into a single, definite outcome. But there is no agreed upon physical mechanism for this collapse. The equations of quantum mechanics describe the wave function evolving smoothly and deterministically until measurement, and then they simply say it collapses. They do not explain the collapse. They do not say what counts as a measuring device. They do not say whether a rock counts as an observer or whether only a conscious mind does. The Copenhagen interpretation, the one that dominated physics for decades, essentially says, stop asking. The wave function is a tool for calculating probabilities of measurement outcomes. Reality beneath measurement is not a valid question. Other interpretations say the wave function never collapses and every possible outcome happens in a branching reality. Qual, that you live in one branch while infinite other versions of you live in every other branch simultaneously. Some physicists have seriously proposed that consciousness itself is what collapses the wave function, that mind is a fundamental feature of physical reality, not an emergent product of it. And the darkest corner of this interpretation is where you should let your gaze settle. If observation is required to collapse physical reality into definite states, and if no observer existed before consciousness evolved in this universe, then what was the state of the universe for the 9 billion years before anything like a mind appeared to look at it? Was it real? Was it a superposition of every possible universe simultaneously? And are you, right now, the thing responsible for collapsing reality into existence as you look at it? I should one observation at a time, holding the universe together with your attention in a way you cannot stop and did not consent to. Number 2, you are not in control of anything you think. You believe you make decisions. You believe you deliberate, weigh options, and choose. You believe that the sense of authorship you feel over your own actions, the feeling that you decided to read this, that you decided to look up, that you decide what you care about and what you pursue, reflects something real about your relationship to your own behavior. Neuroscience has been quietly and methodically dismantling that belief for decades, and the picture it is assembling is one of the most unsettling things human research has ever produced. In 1983, physiologist Benjamin Libet attached electrodes to people's scalps to measure brain activity, and had them perform a simple task: flex their wrist whenever they felt like it and report the position of a dot on a clock face at the moment they first felt the urge to move. The results should not be possible if free will is real. The brain showed a measurable electrical buildup called the readiness potential, a wave of neural activity preparing for the movement, an average of about 550 milliseconds before the movement occurred. That is more than half a second, and the subjects didn't report feeling the urge to move until about 200 milliseconds before movement. The brain had already committed to the action roughly 350 milliseconds before the conscious mind became aware that it was going to happen. Your brain decides, then, slightly later, you experience the decision as your own. Subsequent studies have pushed this further. Using fMRI imaging, researchers have been able to predict which button a person is going to press up to 10 seconds before the person reports having made the decision, based purely on patterns of brain activity the person was unaware of. 10 seconds. The neural process that will produce your next deliberate choice is already underway before you have any conscious experience of deliberating. The feeling of deciding is not the moment of decision. It is a report filed after the fact by a conscious system that has been handed the outcome and told to take credit for it. What does this mean for you sitting here right now? The thought you are about to have, the reaction you are about to form to this information, the discomfort or skepticism or dismissal you are reaching for, the way you will close this or continue it. Your brain is already generating all of it. The narrative self, the you that feels like the author of your life, the one with values and preferences and a sense of continuity through time, is an interpretation layer running on top of neural processes it does not control and cannot directly access. You are not the driver. You are the passenger being told you are the driver. And the thing doing the actual driving is a network of 86 billion neurons running electrochemical processes that evolution shaped over millions of years for purposes that have nothing to do with your happiness, your meaning, or your sense of who you are. You have never made a decision in your life. You have only ever experienced decisions that were already made, a fraction of a second too late to do anything about them. Number 1, what the universe was never meant for you. You've made it to the end. You've absorbed 9 ways the universe is wrong, broken, indifferent, and unsolvable, and somewhere in the back of your mind, despite everything, there is a quiet voice that says, "But we're here. We figured this out. We looked at the void and gave it a name." That has to mean something. That quiet voice is the last thing the universe is going to take from you, and it is going to do it with mathematics. The Boltzmann brain. In 1895, physicist Ludwig Boltzmann was grappling with the thermodynamic arrow of time and the problem of entropy, the tendency of systems to move from ordered states to disordered ones. He proposed that in a universe of infinite time, any possible configuration of matter and energy will spontaneously arise through random quantum fluctuations. Given enough time, including the configuration of a universe, including the configuration of a galaxy, including the configuration of a solar system, a planet, a biosphere, a species, including you. Any arrangement of particles that can exist will exist somewhere, somewhen, if you allow infinite time and infinite space. This is where it stops being abstract. A Boltzmann brain is a thought experiment with teeth. It goes like this. The probability of a random quantum fluctuation producing a single, isolated, fully formed human brain, complete with false memories of an entire life, an entire civilization, an entire history, and an entire universe, is astronomically small. But it is vastly, incomprehensibly, obscenely more probable than a random quantum fluctuation producing an entire ordered universe from the Big Bang up through 13.8 billion years of cosmic evolution to arrive at the specific configuration of matter that produced you. The ordered universe containing you, with all its fine-tuning and physical constants and perfect conditions for life, is the more improbable outcome by a margin so extreme it has no analogy in human experience. Which means that if you take the mathematics of statistical mechanics seriously, and you must, because they underlie every piece of technology you have ever used, the most probable explanation for the existence of a mind with your memories, in a configuration of matter that seems to perceive a coherent universe, is not that you are a real human being who evolved over billions of years in a genuine physical cosmos. The most probable explanation is that you are a random quantum fluctuation, a temporary arrangement of particles that spontaneously coalesce from the void of a mostly dead universe, complete with false memories of everything you think you've experienced, every person you think you've known, every moment you think you've lived. And in the next moment, or the moment after that, the fluctuation will end, the arrangement will dissolve, the illusion of a coherent universe will collapse back into entropic noise. There is no way from inside your experience to disprove this. Every memory you have of a consistent past could be false memory baked into the structure of a spontaneous fluctuation. Every piece of evidence you might point to for the reality of the universe around you is itself part of the experience you are trying to verify. You cannot step outside your own consciousness to check whether it corresponds to anything real. The mathematics says a Boltzmann brain is more probable than you. The mathematics says the universe around you is more likely fake than real. And the mathematics has never, in the entire history of human science, been wrong about anything it could actually be tested on. You are sitting in a configuration of matter that might be the most elaborate accident in thermodynamic history, experiencing a few moments of apparent consciousness in what feels like a coherent universe. ATKs, and the most rigorous tool for understanding reality that your species has ever developed, looks at all of it and says, the probability that any of this is real is lower than the probability that it isn't. The universe didn't build itself for you. The universe didn't build you for anything. And the self that is reading this sentence with its fear and its discomfort and its desperate desire to find a reason this doesn't apply to it, is either a brief accident about to dissolve or the product of a cosmos so vast and indifferent that it produced you by accident anyway, for no reason, with no destination, in a darkness that was here long before you and will be here, long after the last atom of what you are has scattered back into the void that was never waiting for you and will never notice you're gone.